Good day, everyone. We are the Group 2 from BSA 1, and the topic that we are going to discuss is the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. Topic learning outcomes. At the end of the discussion, the students should be able to explain the historical background of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 and analyze the accounts of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 as presented by different sources. Here are the topics to be presented in our discussion. First, Spanish version of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 by Jose Montero y Vidal. Second, official report of Governor Izquierdo on the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. And lastly, Filipino version of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 by Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera. There is one past but many histories. It states that there is only one set of established facts about the past, but there are several ways to view or interpret it.
The year 1872 is a historic year of two events, the Cavite Mutiny and the martyrdom of the three priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, later on immortalized as Gumburza. These events are important in Philippine history, creating shock waves that influenced the decisive events of the Philippine Revolution at the end of the century. While the importance is undeniable, what made this year controversial was the conflicting views supported by the primary sources. In this case, we will zoom in on the events of the Cavite Mutiny, a major factor in the awakening of nationalism among Filipinos at that time. Cavite Mutiny. The Cavite Mutiny sparks the rise of nationalism and sooner or later the outbreak. What is mutiny? It comes from the old verb mutin, which means revolt, is an incident in which a group of individuals is unwillingly to follow commands and seeks to take power from the party providing them. A mutiny is an uprising by a group of people to oppose, change, or overthrow an organization to which they were previously loyal. And what is the Cavite Mutiny of 1872? Cavite Mutiny of 1872 on January 20, 1872, about 200 Filipino troops and workers of Fort San Felipe Arsenal in Cavite, Philippines, staged a mutiny against the Spanish government. This, this is commonly known as the Cavite Mutiny. The Cavite Mutiny was caused by the removal of personal benefits to the workers such as taxes or tribute and forced labor exemptions that was ordered from the governor at that time. According to history, the Cavite Mutiny failed because they mistook a fiesta fireworks display held in one of Manila's towns as a signal from their co-mutiners in Manila to immediately begin in the rebellion. As a result, the Cavite Mutiny was unsuccessful as no reinforcements came from Manila and government officials and soldiers executed many of the participants who took part and started the Philippine nationalist movement. The Cavite Mutiny became a major factor in the awakening of nationalism within the Filipinos because before the people did not think that they were one nation. There are two phases and versions of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. These are the Spanish version and Filipino version.
As per Miss Villena, there are two phases or versions of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny, and I am here today to explore with you guys the Spanish version of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. But no. But first, We should know that there are two different Spanish accounts of the Cavite Mutiny. First, the Monteros' account of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872, and followed by the official report of Governor Izquierdo of 1872. Let's begin with the Monteros' account of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. And here we have an image of Mr. Vidal. Now, who is Jose Montero y Vidal? Jose Montero y Vidal was born in Jerald, Spain. Montero y Vidal was a Spanish writer and politician who held various positions in the Spanish overseas provinces of the Philippines and Cuba and wrote extensively about them. He is considered one of the most knowledgeable Spanish historians residing in the Philippines then. Montero y Vidal was three major historical works which are highly recognized in studying the history of our nation. Mr. Vidal was a well-decorated leader and writer, but he became very critical when studying the past of our country. Montero's account of the Cavite Mutiny. Montero y Vidal claims that the Cavite Mutiny was an uprising and conspiracies that was influenced by the Spanish Revolution, which overthrew a secular throne, the propaganda against monarchical principles, the democratic and republican books and pamphlets, the speeches and preachings of new ideas, the American publicists, and criminal policies. Also, these influences led some Filipinos to adopt the vision of achieving independence and accomplish this aim. Montero y Vidal predicted in his writings that if a major rebellion didn't break out soon, all Spaniards would be killed, even prior. Since the time of De la Torre, the plot had been ongoing in complete secrecy. The private meetings that took place in this home are an example of them. Asito Zamora D, Joaquin Pardo de Tavera, and Michael Gomez. Hence, it was a conspiracy that included both the local military and large number of people. Now let us hear the other Spanish account of the Cavite Mutiny. Now here is Miss Mateo to explore with us.
And now we have the official report of Governor Izquierdo on the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. Here we have an image of Governor General Rafael Izquierdo. Rafael Jeronimo Cayetano Izquierdo was born on September 30, 1820 in Santander, Spain. He was widely recognized for his iron fist form of government, which contradicted the structure of the previous folder of the government. He led the execution of 41 mutineers, including the Gomborsa martyrs. Izquierdo was also known for voiding the liberal measures and then implementing even harsher laws. This caused an uprising among the citizens of the nation. Soldiers of the engineering and artillery corps were expected to pay taxes when they had been exempted prior to his reign. These harsh changes became the cause of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. The official report of Governor Izquierdo on the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. Izquierdo made a report regarding the events of the Cavite Mutiny to the Spanish Minister of War, dated January 23, 1872. He had exclaimed that it was the fault of the native clergy and local residents. He described the Cavite Mutiny as a criminal project influenced and prepared by the mestizos, native lawyers, and abogadillos. In an attempt to attract the native troops, they used superstitions that the Indios were prone to believe in. They took advantage of the ignorance and propensity to steal of those in the lower classes. They promised that 15 native battalions would be created for those who revolted and would gain jobs as officers and cops. Though it was not clear if there was an intention to create a monarchy or republic after the mutiny, though it is certain that a priest would be the head of the then government. In a result, the leaders of the plot were killed.
The martyrdom of three priests. Gomburza, the collective name of the three martyred priests, tagged as the masterminds of the Cavite Mutiny. They were prominent Filipino priests charged with treason and sedition. Gomburza refers to three Filipino Catholic priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, who were executed by garrote on February 17, 1872 in Bagong Bayan, Philippines. Father Mariano Gomez. Mariano Gomez was a 48-year-old Filipino secular priest who served the Bacoor, Cavite parish. He was one of the three martyrs priests known as the Gomburza. One of his achievements was also the improvement of the city. Mariano Gomez worked piqued the interest of Cavite Governor Juan Salcedo, who convened all of the province governors in Bacoor in 1881 just to show them the town streets as a model. It articulates that during Father Gomez's term, Bacoor Cavite improved significantly, and Governor Juan Salcedo gathered all the province governors to present and make it a model to them.
Father Jose Burgos. Father Jose Burgos, one of the three Filipino martyr priests known as Gomburza, was born on February 9, 1837 in Vigan, Ilocos Sur. Filipino Catholic priest and leader of the secularization movement, who referred to the full incorporation of Filipino priests into the Filipino Catholic hierarchy then dominated by Spanish monks. Father Jose Burgos did not make the most outstanding contribution to the establishment of Philippine freedom, but he did make the first significant contribution, both in his life and in his death, toward the achievement of Philippine independence. Burgos has been described as a precursor to Rizal, the type of secular priest who really clamored for Filipino rights. As a student, he was said to have incited a demonstration that ended in violence when the Letran administration tried to curb students' rights and imposed its candidate in student council elections. As a priest, he co-headed a reform committee and was keen on seeing Filipinos taking up more positions in the church. He saw the Philippine church as rightfully belonging to the Filipinos. By that, he meant the insulares, Spaniards born in the Philippines. But it was budding nationalism that made him dangerous. In the eyes of the Spanish elite, he was a young upstart trying to upend the established system. That's why in 1872, he was implicated in the Cavite Mutiny. The mutineers were calling out for Burgos, proclaiming him Rey Indio, or native king. He was 35 when he was sentenced to die. Father Jacinto Zamora. On August 14, 1835, Jacinto Zamora was born in Pandacan, the Philippines, which was a town separate from Manila at the time. He was Hilaria del Rosario's and Venancio Zamora's son. In the Philippines, Jacinto Zamora was a revered and well-known secular priest. He is remembered for leading a campaign against the abusive Spanish friars and fighting for equal rights among priests. He is considered to be a true patriot in fighting against Spanish colonization. Unlike Gomez or Burgos, Jacinto Zamora was not an exemplary priest. He was anything but he had a habit of playing cards during Mass. while the others could be said to have died for some sort of conviction. Zamora was a gambling priest who had little care in the world. One day in 1872, he received a letter that one of his gambler friends had bullets and gunpowder, code for a lot of cash. His invitation fell into the hands of the Spaniards, and worse, it was on the night of the Cavite Mutiny, led by a Filipino soldier, Sergeant La Madrid. This invitation was used by Spaniards as evidence against Jacinto Zamora. The court accused them of inciting the revolt, even though the evidence was not adequate. They were found guilty and sentenced to death by garrote. The execution was carried out on February 17, 1872, at Bagumbayan Field in Manila. It has been said by the witnesses that Zamora was disoriented during his last days. As a result, he did not give any last words. Conclusion: The Gomburza were executed on February 17, 1872, in an attempt by the Spanish government and philocracia to instill dread among Filipinos so that they would never do such a daring deed again. This sad tragedy served as one of the driving reasons that developed Filipino nationalism. In the end, the three priests were killed in Bagumbayan, now called Rizal Park, by garrote, and they were buried in Paco Park in unmarked graves. Their deaths were by no means small events at the time. The Ilustrado class was furious and demanded an explanation and reforms. The death of Gomburza solidified the nationalism felt by so many. The concept of Filipino and what is Philippines only grew from there. Besides Rizal, the Katipunero also grew emboldened by the liberal ideas which propelled their invertent martyrdom, even going so far as using Gomburza as a password.
The two phases of the 1872 version. Filipino version, a response to injustice. Pardo de Tavera's account of the mutiny of 1872. Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo Tavera. He was born in Manila on April 13, 1857. His father, Felix Pardo Tavera, was a lawyer, and Joaquin Pardo Tavera, his brother, was a law professor and a government official. During the early years of the American rule in the Philippines, Tavera served as a member of God's Commission. He died at the age of 68 in Manila on March 26, 1945. He was known for his writing about different aspects of Philippines. Also, the uncle of Trinidad is one among the people who were punished and exiled to the Mariana Islands as a result of the Governor General and the Congregation of Friars of the Philippines of the my friars, Spanish colonizers in the Philippines abusing their positions of authority in a disorderly manner. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.